Melissa, since like Melissa, what do you hear in there?
Um, I hear. Sorry, it's just as hard to hear those recordings now as it was 3.5 years ago. It's harrowing. I hear a child saying no. I can definitely hear it. It's a child under the age of 10, I would say.
Prove to me that you are alive.
But I want to know from you. This is a tough question, man. Do you think that there are higher up officials of that town that are involved in these possible, trafficking stories?
I think it's hard to say. I would like to be able to say no. I would like to be able to say that the people who are in the positions of protecting us wouldn't be involved in such a thing. My initial thoughts at first, a couple of years ago, was perhaps that even police forces are scared because whatever is going on is maybe greater than them. And then as time went on, I started to believe that potentially it is being covered up. By the police or by, again, like you mentioned, higher powers. It's really hard to say. But what I can say is that the law that should be in place, I don't feel as though it is being followed, unless there is an investigation that is happening that we don't know about. But usually in the case of investigation, people would be invited to give evidence, whereas I feel that in this case, evidence has been completely dismissed. Sorry, it's hard to say.
Yeah, David, you're an intelligent street dude. You've been around Europe, man. What do you answer to that question?
Well, I suppose we've got to look at other cases which we do know a lot more about and that have come out in recent years. So you've got a place called the Elm Tree Guest House in London that were basically used for children in the care system in London to be brought there and be sexually abused by politicians. And there's heaps of evidence to it, but it never went anywhere because the people who were pulling the strings in the higher ups of the police and the government were using that place to sell. So they had a vested interest in making sure that none of that information got out. You've got a care home which is in Jersey. There's loads of evidence now that again, it's a care home. You've got orphan children in care system. Children were being taken from there by one of our prime ministers, and there's so much evidence now. Like they were one of the main police officers for Greater Manchester. He says if he had that evidence in front of him now, we'd be looking to convict. He's taking children from that care home out on his boat, but the children aren't coming back. You've got to look at the Blackstone operations like Epstein and all that type of stuff. This is something that's consistently going on all over the world.
David, listen, like, trust me, and I'm actually about to in the following weeks release a crazy story about like an incident that happened in Russia, with rituals, and it's very detailed. I got this personal story and everything, but we're not talking about like, allegations and Epstein or something. We're talking about a particular story that all of you have witnessed and been involved with. So it's not something like, oh, what's going on Epstein Island? We haven't been there. We're suspecting, not it. We're talking about a real life story that all three of you have experienced.
Alan, I think what Alan uncovered were the exact same thing that were going on in these other places, but we've managed to get actual evidence of it actually happening.
So that's why I want to concentrate on this. Alan, you mentioned something in the chat. Can I ask you about it on video?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the Kidwelly sex cult? What are you talking about? And why did you say 12 miles down the road?
Okay, Kidwelly is a Welsh, I believe it's a town. It's 12 miles down the road from Ammanford. It was a news story, if I remember rightly, 2018 or around there. So around about the same time as what happened at my house. The guy's name was Colin Batley, I think, if I remember rightly. I can find you the news link if you want. It was said to be a satanic sex cult.
No, it's okay. I wanted to hear from you. Melissa, did you, throughout this whole story, did you ever get a feeling of like, how come men are not storming into that building?
It was never a sort of in a negative way. Why aren't people, especially big strong men, storming into the building? Right. It was more of a how can we collectively storm into this building? But it very quickly became, this isn't something we can achieve as humans. We'll be breaking multiple laws. We'll be met by the police force. We're potentially going into territory where there's guns, scary people, things that are sort of above us. And that sounds quite sad, actually, because I'd like to believe, I like to believe in the power of the people. But when the power of the people is above us, it's very hard. I would have liked to have been, if it was a door, I think all of us would like to say that we would bang that door down, and we would be straight in there if we heard noises of children. And I think that's a universal thing that, most sane-minded people have a common thing where we all care about children and young people, or, we wouldn't take them being abused. But I think it's a lot more complex than, a group of men just going there and tackling it themselves. Otherwise, I believe it would have been done by now.
Yeah, because Alan, from what I understand, and maybe David can also answer this, you guys never really learned in detail what could be under there, meaning, right? Like, meaning you never seen like architectural drawings or structural drawings or blueprints or anything like that. Like is it a possibility that it could be like something, it could be like multiple doors, multiple tunnels, like is that a possibility, Alan?
In my viewpoint, I've listened to all of the recordings than everybody. It seems to me, because of the volume that was of the actual recordings in different ones, it seems to me that it was actually over 3 different levels. Yes, it was underneath the basement, but it seemed like there were 3 different levels. So like
Holy
a
shit.
level and another level and another level, like 3 tunnels that are running on top of each other, if you like, or a chamber. I mean, we use the word tunnel, but the tunnel leads to something bigger. If it didn't, you wouldn't hear the guns like that. You'd have a hell of an echo.
Okay. David, I wanna ask you in detail because I'm trying to get the picture, and I'm sorry. I hope Melissa and Alan doesn't mind. But I really, because you kind of skipped a little bit fast through this story. I want to understand for myself and for the people that will see this, because I'm trying to put this together in my head. Because from what I understand, Alan lived there. Then he, very sadly had to move out. It was a crazy incident that happened with the gas. He had to grab his wife in the middle of the night. He's carrying her out. I'll never forget this story, man. So what I want to know from you is, like, when you initially heard about this and you decided to go down there, and please don't skip a detail. And I'm gonna mute my mic and kind of turn off my camera while you telling this story. How did you get, is this, at this point, David, when you're getting down there, is this an abandoned house? How did you get the keys? How did you get inside? And was this through, did you spend the night there? Are you alone? Are you hearing this right away when you're down there? Can you in detail share your first encounter, man?
Yeah, so what Alan were doing again to try and keep it as sort of like straight as possible, he had the locks changed because there's only one door, one way, one door in and one door out. He had the locks changed, so and then I went and picked the keys up from one of his friends who lived not too far away from there. So I had the only key to that property, which understandably made me feel a little bit more comfortable. I were coincidentally I were working in that area, well, about an hour and a half north from there. So I drove down there roughly about 6, 7 o'clock. I went and picked up the keys first, drove round to Ammanford, parked up. Now, the job I was doing free water, like insulation stuff as part of a scheme for local authorities. So I actually felt half safe there in the fact that I thought if I went there and someone challenged me, I could blag my way out of it. Just like, well, I don't know what you're on about, mate. I'm just doing a survey of this building because I work for this company. You know, we're turning up with a van that had full of stickers. When I got there, locked door behind me. Like I'd already mentioned, I just wanted to get a bit of a feel for the place. So initially, I actually ate some food in there first, had my tea. Understandably, Alan had not lived there for quite a while by this stage, and Alan were also in the process of renovating it. And then, understandably, had to leave quickly. So the house was in a little bit of disarray because it was half building work and half Alan having to grab what he can and get out of there. So yeah, so I went in there. You had to use ladders to get down to the cellar because again, we were doing building work. So I went in there first. You went through the door to your left with kitchen with a trap door down at cellar. To the right were another room that were just full of like personal belongings. That's the only room I ever got a negative feeling in, but quite a strong negative feeling, like someone was stood in the corner of the room looking at me. You literally got tingles up your going in that one particular room. Then you went up the stairs, which were directly in front of you from the main door. And then you went upstairs, you had a whole load of other rooms. It was quite a strange layout with this building because were it a house and a flat not together, Alan, if I'm right in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the front bit that was over the nail bar was a flat, and then it ran into a house.
Yes, it was quite a strange layout, long corridors, long dark corridors. So yeah, when I initially went there, I've ate my food. I've sat there just in what was sort of like a makeshift living room for a bit, just to sort of try and get a feel. Being honest, I didn't really hear any noises at that stage. Then decided to have a good wander around, and I did have a good walk around that full place. Starting off down its cellar, went in every single room, right up to attic. I really spent my time having a good little look around. And then that's when I noticed it had just got dark. So I thought, well, that's probably a good time for me to start getting these microphones out. We used to put 5 or 6 in different locations all around the property. So I've gone round, turned the mics on. And that first time is when I heard something run above my head in that attic space. But yeah, it's being honest with you, I wasn't really scared going there because I thought I could blag my way out of it if I did get challenged because I was dressed in the van that I was turning up in. And I did have like a big mag light torch. So I always thought, well, if it did come to that, I could always come out swinging if I needed to.
Melissa, and then Alan, you can start sharing your screen. Thank you, David, for sharing that. Melissa, what do you think about this whole paranormal aspect to the story?
I suppose I never thought of anything paranormal until it was mentioned today, actually. And I suppose it depends on your own belief, whether you're spiritual or religious. So it's hard for me to say, but I do only now I reflect on what was mentioned about sort of dark energies being attracted to really dark things happening. But again, like it's been mentioned before, I don't think that takes away from the belief that we all have that something terrible has been happening to children, and it's not just paranormal activity.
It certainly doesn't. But the reason I ask you, Melissa, is, and from your own experience being in a field of work that you have been, what I want what I'm really wondering, do you think that there is a ritualistic aspect to this story and other stories?
I don't know. I can't comment. I don't know.
Okay. Alan, how can you comment on a whole paranormal experience that David had in the house that you lived in?
How can I comment?
Yeah.
What David experiences is what David experiences. There was another guy that went back there who was the Reverence. I won't mention his name, and he went with someone he calls, I think they're called, what are they called? A familiar. And exactly what David says, they felt negative energies as well. That's it. They went all the way around the house, and it was only in that room, not necessarily the room, but the pillar by the side of that room, that they had negative energies. I mean, they felt them. David felt them. I've experienced a few odd things. Like if I've been in the kitchen area, it looks like someone walks past the window, but there's been many times I've shot out there and there isn't anybody there. So I don't know.
Yeah, because you're the person that spent most of the time in that property. So I was wondering if you ever experienced anything like it. Okay, so if all of you, David and Melissa, don't mind, Alan has
Prove to me that you are alive.
something to share, and I'm gonna share it on the screen. Can you navigate through it, Alan? Are you able to?
I'm going to give it a good shot.
Yeah, and
Why
let's
my
see.
mouse works. Okay, this is actually the website. Can you see it that side?
Yep, we see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's just. Now, can you see the review that's on the screen?
Yep.
Okay, the review is, this is Sophie and Nails had a fire, I think it was August, the end of August 2024. They moved to new premises, and in the new premises, this is what a guy's left a review for them, what it says. His name's Sam Shepherd. He says, carcinogenic fumes extracted into the flat above made me sick and have seizures. Refused to use a filter, rather pump the fumes into my house. I've had to move out since. Which seems to go along with what I said about gas.
Okay, yeah, keep going. Keep taking us to the website. I know you wanted to share.
Yeah, if I'd lost the website, I'd be all right. 2 minutes, I'll just get back up again.
It's in front of us. We can see it.
You can see the website, can you?
Yeah, we see it. Yeah.
Or you see my.
You're the only one that can control it, but we see it. David, you see it, right?
Yeah, I can see it, mate.
Yeah, we see it, man. I don't know. Maybe
2
you
seconds.
opened up another tab or something, man.
Yeah, I've done something wrong.
While Alan's sorting that out, just to sort of add, there's so much to this. There's so many different like aspects of evidence to it, which obviously Alan's looking to go through, which I think we missed a little bit when you had that first interview, because there's mountains of evidence and just sort of like coincidences that become a bit more than a coincidence. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about it? Like what do you mean?
Yeah, so stuff like people who got in touch, the fact that there were a beeping noise in there, that we never really got to the bottom of where that beeping noise was coming from. It sounded like a fire alarm. Do you know, like if a fire alarm's faulty, it'll give a warning beep. But Alan were managing to use that as like sonar, and we highly suspect that we were managing to work out that there might have been an entrance to it nearby. He had a phone call from the actual owner of Sophia Nails, so the owner of the building, who's a local gentleman, and it were a very strange phone call. Asked a lot of like questions, but it was all based off of the fact that in that cellar, when you got in that cellar, which Alan will show you the video on because I videoed it, there was a light source coming through the wall. Which were actually underground, and it's only once he published that video did he get that phone call from the owner of that building. Then a load of work got done to the garden next door, and we could no longer sort of pick up that entrance that we were picking up using the beeping sounds as a sonar to sort of locate that. It was almost as if they closed that area off of the back of us, off the back of Alan releasing the video of us filming that light source coming from the ground, which is underground.
Alan, so you have, is that a video? Do you want to play it?
Yeah, this is a short video. This is going to show you Ammanford, the coal mining place, and just to show you how big the mines actually are, you'll see a train doing it. It's only 1 minute and 27 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. Alan, can you sort of while you're showing it, can you name, can you talk about like what's going on?
Okay, it's just this was made when the mine was open, and it's just men going to work. But you can see from the number of people that are in that, presumably it's some sort of tunnel. And as the film goes on, you'll actually see them get into a small little train, cart, call it what you will, a powered cart that takes them deep inside the mine.
So, are you and David, are you guys implying that this tunnel leads to the under the house? Like, is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. We were just looking at what tunnels were in the area. There's a lot of mining in the area. We found this video. Lots of people have speculated that it is coming from there and it's some sort of add-on. I don't know. I'm just trying to show that it's possible if you look at the size of it.
And it might be worth you talking about that tunnel from Swansea that runs to Ammanford, Alan.
Okay, there was rumours that there was a tunnel that run from Swansea to, I believe it was underneath a castle in Ammanford. Apparently there are police reports of youths coming in from going in and out of the Swansea side of the tunnel on motorbikes. Apparently some of them were done for drugs, and there was prostitution in the front part of the tunnel. And I believe they referred to it on the internet as the dark room.
Alan, before you go on navigating through the website, I wanted to ask Melissa, if you can hear me, Melissa, since you kind of said that when you first got into town, you were kind of scoping out the area, and I asked Alan about this. What would you say are the demographics of that town?
Demographics, it's hard to say. Like I described it earlier,
is it like an immigrant town? Is it more of a Welsh town? Like, is it mostly old people, young people? Like, what did it look like to you?
To me, a Welsh town with perhaps small percentage of immigrants there. Mix of old and young people. I sort of drove around, saw the local high school, saw a primary school. It's your average town as such, which again makes it a perfect place for something, if you can call it a perfect place for something horrific to happen, like I keep mentioning, hidden in plain sight.
Right. Alan, you want to go on navigating through the site and show us what you want?
Yeah, sure. On the first page, we've got 5 residents to death. I was speaking to you about this the other day. We've actually got a 6th one now. I just haven't put it up yet. This is the first one. I'll tell you what the police said about it.
Yeah.
When
was this recorded?
I don't know. I can't remember, but the police report underneath was July 2019. It would have been just before that because we shared everything with them.
Okay.
And the police report says, Mr. Tait was referring to the recording mentioned above, which has been listened to, and as stated, does sound like a child saying the baby's died. However, there is no evidence to support that these are genuine, and not
Wow.
taken outside near a busy road or even taken off the television or internet. Now, let me explain this a little bit more.
Yo,
Yeah?
my mind. Sorry, man. I want you to go on, but I'm losing my mind right now. What kind of response is this, man?
No, it's just crap, isn't it? I'm sorry, but it is. Evidence isn't needed to investigate. Evidence is needed to prosecute. The police didn't even talk to the two women who recorded the babies died recording. Yeah? When they say, there's no evidence to support it, there is. They just didn't bother talking to them.
Yo, I'm like losing my mind right now. So they're acknowledging that they heard what they heard, but they're trying to say that this could have been taken off of TV. Like, what the F, man? Why would somebody do that?
Let's read it again. However, there is no evidence to support that these are genuine and not taken outside near a busy road. Okay, if it's in a busy road, why can't we not hear the traffic or even take it off television or internet? It's complete nonsense. Why just dismiss something
Listen,
with a simple statement?
before you go on, since Melissa, I want to ask you, since you are like, you have been professionally working with this, what, like, is this a normal response? And in other cases, let's say, what would it take for the police to legally take action?
I don't think it's good practice in terms of the response. The police, in terms of professionals who work with children and young people, for example, in my last role as the designated safeguarding officer, it was never my role to investigate. That was always passed on to either children's services or the police, as that's their role. So in terms of, someone like Alan being able to report something, the expectation of the police or of children's services is that at that point the investigation starts from there. Alan would just be the point of contact to give any more sort of evidence as a witness. So to see this is absurd, and I would say it's a failing.
Right. So again, like, coming from your experience, this sort of a response, as you just said, is abnormal, to say the least.
It's unacceptable. Yeah.
Okay, Alan, you can go on, man.
Okay, thanks. Now, the police had all the recordings. Okay, so here's the next one. I'll just play it again in case we missed it. I think that says she's dead. Now the next one.
So what? I'm sorry. Before you go on, I don't want to just like run through this. Can everyone agree with me here that is this a man saying she's dead?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
One more time.
Holy shit! And this sounds like this doesn't sound like a person with an accent.
Dave's our expert on that one.
Okay, you can go on, and the next one that you're gonna play, I plugged it into our previous conversation when I released the video. Gave me so much chills, man. But go ahead.
If that one gave you chills, this one is the first one. The sixth one is just Charles speaking again, but I'm going to put it on the website later. No, I left that last bit in because, I mean, to my mind, the person says, well, I killed him. And it's the next bit I'm not sure about.
Does everyone else heard, whoa, I killed him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know which one? The one that really caught my attention was the one where a name was mentioned.
Well,
Garrett. Yeah. That one. Have any of you tried looking into possibly a connection with that name or anything like that?
So who wants to go first?
Yeah, well, there was a connection in there with owner of the of Sophia Niels, the actual owner of that building.
What? Whoa! His name is Gareth.
Yeah, am I right in saying that, Alan?
Yeah, absolutely. The gentleman's name who owns the nail bar.
What?
Yeah,
Hold on. No one ever investigated this guy.
Nope.
Go ahead, Alan. You can keep going. I'm like, sorry, I'm being stunned like over and over again. Again, this is
Yeah.
super heavy for me, man.
Trust me, all three of us can relate to that. We've all been there. I'll play the next one.
Holy shit, man. That's clearly a grown man saying that, man.
This is what the police said. The police told us if we were serious about our claims, we should fund the investigation ourselves. What they actually said was this. And that the noises they are reporting sound like everyday street noises, children playing in the park. I suggested if they were serious about their claims, that they need to employ a reputable company to place professional equipment in the basement to record any strange noises.
I am so sorry if I'm being rude and I can't be politically correct right now, but what the what? How is that normal street noises, man?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and like I say, one thing I will add, if you were the men that we're picking up, they have most of them have Welsh accents that are local to that area. Because understandably, the Welsh accent changes throughout Wales, like it does typical for UK. So you have varying accents. They've got a southern Welsh accent, which is specific to that part of Wales where it is. The men that we're getting, where the children were a variety of different accents. But Welsh accents, we never picked any like local children's accents up.
Go ahead, Alan.
Okay. The most concerning recordings were of women and young children. I'm just going to say one quick word of warning. If you're listening to the podcast and these sort of things bother you, you don't want to listen to the next 2 minutes.
Let's go, man. Oh my God. Oh my God. Melissa, since Melissa, what do you hear in there?
I hear. Sorry, it's just as hard to hear those recordings now as it was 3.5 years ago. It's harrowing. I hear a child saying no. I can definitely hear it's a child under the age of 10, I would say, screaming, saying no. I'd have to listen to it again, perhaps with earphones in.
Does it seem like to everyone else that this is like a girl running away or something, man?
Or pleading, potentially pleading, saying no to stop something.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely a child. Everyone can agree it's a child in complete and utter distress.
This is so
Yeah.
fucking difficult, man. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry for cussing, man. Oh my God, Alan. So, has any of the police heard this?
Yes, I'll come to that in a minute. But before I do, a guy in Sweden got in touch. I think he was Swedish, a sound engineer, and he reduced the background noise in some of the other recordings. So I'm just going to quickly play them. It's only 30 seconds long.
Bro, what the fuck, man? What was that one noise in the middle, man?
Is it the one that sounds like maybe a young baby or a goat?
Exact, like a pig, like a goat, like a something like that, man.
There's been lots of debate on it. Some people say it sounds like a goat. Some people say it sounds like a young child. I've listened
David,
to it
what is that
many
to you,
times.
man?
Have you got that one there, Alan, where that kid's asking to get dressed?
Yeah, it was just played in that bit, Dave. That was part of it. It wasn't all of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that an animal, Melissa? Like, does that sound like an animal in the middle of the thing, or am I going crazy?
I heard it too, and I wasn't sure whether it was something like a farmyard animal, or a young child as well. And I suppose when I was sort of told by other people that it may be a farmyard animal, that's when sort of things like ritualistic stuff did come across my mind.
Listen, what I really wanna what I really wanna ask the three of you is, and any one of you can go first. From what I heard so far, it sounds like it's men and little girls.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, little
we haven't
children.
heard
You do get.
we haven't heard a grown woman, let's say, in there.
Okay, can I go first?
Yeah, please.
I've heard lots more recordings than the other two. I have heard men and women quite clearly as well, and the same with children. It's not just girls.
So wait, so what
Yeah.
did you hear? Because if we hear men, like, shouting and like maybe taunting, what did you hear the women do?
The one that sticks in my mind, or the one that sticks in my mind the most, is what I can only describe as a really, really, really unusual scream. I'm not sure if Dave's heard it or not, but it's weird.
Before we go on, and again, I want to ask Melissa, because she's coming from the professional side. She's dedicated her life to this. Before we go on, I want to really get this on record. Melissa, from your experience and from your knowledge dealing with all of this stuff, how big is children going missing in the UK? Is it a big issue you guys have over there?
It's not as big as other countries, but I would definitely say that there's a lot of failings that happen with children. There's been big cases around, children dying at the hands of, people who were meant to be their loved ones. That's quite common in the UK, but that's not to say that children don't go missing. In the UK, they do. But if we're talking about trafficking, it's potentially children who've gone missing from other countries that have ended up in the UK, and perhaps their voices that we're hearing.
David, since I know you're plugged into this, David, have you ever heard like stories since the war in Ukraine started, with possibly children being brought over, not very, legally?
Oh, from Ukraine, yeah, I've heard a lot of that, mate. That's a major thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
especially our orphanages out of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Kids who don't have anyone to look out for. Do you know, they're
Yeah.
easy targets out there to be trafficked.
Yeah, man. That's why
Which
I'm
is the
asking.
same here. I've got friends who went through care system and who've got the most horrific stories going through them same people because they were drug addicts. I got to know girls who were now unfortunately drug addicts but prostitutes. Hearing their stories of what happened to them through the care system, it's just absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific.
Alan, do you want to share with us what the police said in regards
Yeah,
to these two recordings?
yes. This is what they said. So we must all be wrong. The police say, this is an extract from the police report. I've listened to the recordings and it all seems like children playing in a schoolyard and
What?
vehicles passing by. There is nothing to suggest any persons are in any danger, and the full police report's available on the website. Download it if you want to.
Listen, before you go on, maybe one of you can clarify this for me, because here's what I'm thinking, right? Like, I could see how, let's say, whatever, like a mayor or, a governor, whatever, like I said before, like one person, two people that are involved. But if you're reaching out and this is possibly going to various different like police officers and stuff, why are they why does it seem like everyone is responding like this? Or do you guys think that that this story in particular gets filtered through one system where it always comes back to the same person and that's why they're giving this response?
I thought about that an awful lot, and the only logical explanation I can come up with is that it does go back to the same source or the same few people that filter it. But there again, I've put this to so many people now, I can't see how it is just a few people.
Exactly. So is it possible that some of these officers that are getting these police reports, are they just, can they be in a not, in a not, I don't even know, can't even talk right now. Can they be like not knowing what's going on, but they're getting the orders, from the top and they're not questioning this? Or is this some crazy shit like a whole bunch of people are involved?
Well, I suppose if we look at Jimmy Savile got away with raping hundreds of children, and the
Oh my
police knew
God.
exactly what were going on. There were plenty of police officers, like, he got caught with a 9-year-old girl in his car in middle at night. The police officers who caught him and pulled him over and found
You're
him with his
killing me right
child,
now, man.
they wanted to do something about it, but their higher ups won't allow it. And that's ultimately, you'll have police officers who will look at this and go, hang on a minute, there's something going on here. But they've got to get permission to pursue it, and they've got to go to one source, and that one source is stopping any real investigation from being carried out. And
Melissa,
Melissa,
what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with both of those responses. And I think we'd all like to think that, a whole police force can't be bad. It can't be that every single police officer who would come across this case would dismiss it. So the answer again, I'm sorry, is I don't know, because I don't know possibly how every single service or organization that has been contacted between Alan and I have all turned around and basically said there's nothing we can do about it, that the police force, the local police force, is the highest force that you can go to about this.
So thinking logically, right? Just contemplating here and trying to use basic knowledge. How can multiple different officers be responding in the same way if they're not in one way or another connected?
Because I think ultimately, whichever police force you've got to go to, they've got to go. It's a bit like a pyramid, innit? You've got all your bobbies at bottom, your average beat guys, and it's working its way up to your chief superintendent. They've always got to go to an higher up to get permission to get them, because obviously it's all to do with cost with police force. So they've got to get permission for an investigation because there's a cost that's arised for that investigation. For them to get that green lit, they've got to go to an higher up. And that it's the higher ups that are compromised, because it's the higher ups that were saying no, there's nothing to investigate there. Forget about that. Move on to something else. If a police officer starts making too much waves about that, they're gone, and they probably know that themselves. A lot of these police officers.
Does that
There's loads of the cases.
Does that town have a large police force?
I wouldn't expect so, because it's only a small town in a fairly rural area.
Holy shit, David, you wanna keep going, please?
Alan,
Alan, sorry. I'm very stunned right now. I'm so sorry, man.
No problem. Now, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just David. There were 10 independent members of the public that used recording devices to investigate for themselves. So I'm going to play you just extracts of what they said, and that goes on for 4 minutes.
Everything I've done it with the same integrity of what you guys have. The locks are changed and the key was safeguarded myself to prove that nobody else was actually in there. And I'm sure mind just confirming that.
I've been into 20 College Street in Ammanfor, set voice recording various noises and voice recordings and activities, and yes, there is definitely something going on.
My name is. I did an investigation in number 20 College Street, and we did put listening devices in the cellar and upstairs, and we did hear some strange noises. It sounded like children and adults arguing. My opinion, there's something definitely going on in there.
It's pretty clear that these noises are not coming from the streets. They're not coming from, they're not just noises coming from some kind of sound channels. Having examined the evidence for myself, I think that there's a case to answer for some underground facility.
First time I went in there, someone running, you can't, it's not even high enough to run, it would only be high enough for a child to run along, you know, because I heard someone run in the loft above me, someone run. Last time I went in there, we heard it again. First time I heard it, I shot straight up there. I didn't go right to the end. So I was a bit scared. I went up and I got into it and I had a little look about. I didn't go right to the end. I went quite far into it. Yes, there is definitely something going on. We do a couple of them, and obviously, there's definitely something going on. So I got a funny feeling there's more people involved than what we think.
In your opinion, do you think that we've made those recordings up?
Oh, no, definitely not. Definitely not. 100%.
Okay.
I can guarantee that. Oh, yes, the recordings are definitely genuine, 100%. I have actually put the recordings there and with blank recordings, and we'll actually pick things up ourselves, and there's no other person that had keys for the property.
We went down the ladder underneath the worktop in the kitchen.
Oh, what's happened there?
Okay, and where did you put them? Like into the wall, just to the side of the ladders? How many microphones did you put in the property when you made the recording? We put 4 in each time. One downstairs in the hall in the wall, one upstairs in the living room, one used to put one in the front of the property by the window and one in the back of the property by the window.
I went there oh my God, within 24 hours I had a really bad headache for like 3 days. Really bad headache, and then I felt suicidal for the next 4. It took me like a week to come out from it. I literally don't know why, I felt literally sad.
Bad as well, wasn't it?
It's alright for me to turn after going there, that's why I sort of refused to do it. I won't go back in there.
Sometimes I'm allowed to do recordings and I've played them back and then I've handed the recorder over to you. So I've heard what's on there before you have. And are you convinced it was coming from underneath the basement? Yeah, at that point there was only me and my daughter that had the
I asked one person how many times he had been to the property to put recorders in. This is what he said.
In total, probably 3-4 times. I went there first time on my own, put the stuff in, and then I went to pick it up on my own, and then I went back to drop it off with me, and then I went back to pick it up. Didn't come, he waited outside, and then I went back when again he won't come come in with me. He waited outside. They didn't want to go in, and I went in, put the stuff back in there, but I didn't go to pick them back up. Went and picked them up, yeah, and because I struggled to get back down there.
There you have it. Can I carry on? Hello?
Wait, sorry, man. I muted myself. Alan, I wanted to ask before you go on, how many people in total was in that recording?
I've not counted them. I mean, 10 people went back to...
No. I'm asking the people that what do you call it? The 4 minutes of different people. How many different people are there? Because I heard David in there, I heard you in there, but how many people in total were were in that recording?
Give it a minute. Chris is just working it out. 9. Yeah, so Chris reckons it's 9 in total, different people.
Okay. I want to ask Melissa. Melissa, how many people do you think it would take for a town like that to actually pay attention?
I would like to say it would only take one person to make.
No, I know, but
obviously
they're not responding. Like, do you think there's a number like 1,000, 2,000?
I think, and this is something I actually really wanted to touch on. I think potentially the more people make referrals to things like children's services in Ammanford, the more pressure is put on the police force. So I think the more people that take action in terms of not just sharing on social media and talking about it, but actually taking physical action, putting in multi-agency referrals to the police force, voicing their concerns of children, I think we stand more of a chance that way.
Because I'm thinking like a petition or something, like a very large petition, like multiple thousands of people. And that's why I wanted to ask Alan, how many local people do you think this story has actually reached?
I don't know. I hear from people that are in that area. I've heard from people that are in that town. The ones that I know of, probably in the region of 100, but it's probably more than that.
And before you go on, Alan, sharing the site, and I want to thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I'm so stunned. I want to ask each and every one of you, maybe you can take turns, because I really have to get this off my heart right now. In all of yours opinions, is this still happening right now in that particular place?
Okay, I'll go first. I don't think it's happening in that place, but very close to it. So yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think something with that type of infrastructure that they've got to use, it's not something that they're going to easily walk away from, especially because from their point of view, they've managed to keep a lid on it. They've managed to keep it to hush, to sort of silence Alan. Any sort of articles online that are related to child trafficking rather than paranormal have been completely scrubbed from the internet. So again, it comes back to their confidence that they can keep getting away with it. So, in my opinion, I'd say it's still used.
Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I agree that if the children or the victims aren't underground in Ammanford, then I believe that they've been moved on elsewhere to be of use for whatever the perpetrators are using them for.
Why do you think that they got spooked because Alan actually came across this and got a bunch of people involved?
Potentially.
But then David brings up a good story, a good point. Like, why would they, if they're not getting punished, why would they basically let go of a place like that? David, you heard me?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You think they won't have many places set up in the manner that that's set up. So let's say, for instance, that there is a tunnel coming directly from Swansea to that place. You have all the infrastructure there. The mine that that's there in Ammanford, it's only very slightly in operation. I actually, madly enough, met the guy who owned it, a really old guy. That's another story for another time. But I actually managed to find out a little bit about that mine. The vast majority of it is completely closed down, and they're only mining a very small amount of it, and they use the coal in carbon filters. But it's a tiny operation. I think if I remember rightly, there were only 8 men working there, which is a fraction of the 100 that were previously working there before.
Oh man, I'm sorry. This is again so heavy for me, but I also understand why this is so important. And just to like smooth over my ego and be very transparent, when after the first conversation with Alan, I spoke to my wife. I played the recordings for her, and I'm the type of person I wanted to get on a plane and fly over, and again, just to kind of make an excuse for myself, but it's a legitimate excuse. I haven't said this publicly, but like I have legal issues. I cannot leave the country. Like I'm ongoing under going through a case. I got set up with my business. It was like a year ago, and I'm being pressed by the feds over here, so I can't legally leave the country. I'm just saying that to kind of like maybe make an excuse for myself, of not shooting down there, because this is such a heavy story. What I wanted to find out from Alan, and I know I asked you this before, but you haven't seen, throughout the time that you were there and while this was actively going on, you haven't seen any suspicious and weird activity that could potentially look like a child is acting weird or is being like brought somewhere, or like I'm asking if you visibly seen anything like this instead of just hearing stuff.
Okay. First, let me say what we're looking for, or what we're trying to get, is a peaceful outcome to this. We don't want anybody going down there, anybody taking matters into their own hands. Those recordings that we've got are horrific. You can hear the terror in the kids' voices. You can hear shotguns, and you can hear from this what the police are doing about it. There is no point. We have to find some peaceful way forward. Now, there was one occasion when I was pushing my luck, and in between the alleyway, I put a microphone on top of a black bin bag, hoping to catch anybody that was in the alleyway overnight. Well, somebody took it away and they brought it back, but by mistake, they blanked it off, but they turned it back on the way back, and we've actually got the recording of them walking back with it.
Okay. You want to go on, Alan?
Yeah, sure. Now, the website explores the ongoing 6.5 years now investigation into the noises, and we provide all the evidence that we've concluded so far. And a conspiracy theory, let me just say, a conspiracy theory is only a conspiracy theory when there's no evidence to support it. The bit underneath that, if you can see it on the screen, is what a Vietnamese interpreter said about it. And she said that basically, it's not a far-fetched conspiracy theory. And if you click there, you could read everything that she did say. This page, or the front page, the opening page, is an overview of the recorded noises and of the women and children that concerned us. Other noises that have concerned us are also detailed on the website. Now, we provided links and documentation on later pages to prove what we said. We've also included the full conversations that we've posted extracts from, so they can be listened to in context. We've also included some of the longer 5-hour recordings that we posted extracts from, so they can be taken in context. And our mission is simply to get a full investigation into the horrific noises of women and children that were recorded.
Alan, I want to ask you a clarifying question. what is this 5-hour recording? What is on this 5-hour recording?
It's not a single 5-hour recording. For some reason, I don't know why, when we put the recorders into the property, it would always break the recordings down into 5-hour segments. So it record for 5 hours, then start again, another 5 hours, 5 hours. So all the recordings are in 5-hour segments. In total, I've lost track of how many there is.
You told me, sorry for interrupting you. I just want to punch in this real quick, because initially you told me there in total it was like over 40 hours of recording. So I'm trying to, without playing the 5 hours obviously right now, I'm trying to get an idea of the 5-hour piece. Like, is it continuously hearing all this horrific stuff, or are you hearing something where you can actually piece up a story in your head of what's going on?
Okay, what I said about the 40-hour recording, that was one recorder that was in.
Oh, shit.
And yeah, that was a continual recording, and that was demonstrating one of the machine noises. In total, is it about 200?
So hold on a second. Before like, 5 or 40 hours, I just really want you to clarify this for me, because I'm thinking that if I would hear something ongoing even for 5 hours, and if I'm intensively listening to it, I could piece up a story of, like, who's there, like what are they doing throughout these 5 hours, how many people are there, how many kids are there, like, is it a repetitive thing where every day they're repeating something, or every day it's a new thing? Like, is it a ritual going on? Is it like, what kind of picture did you formulate after listening to, let's say, 5 hours?
Prove to me that you are alive.